I feel like there's this expectation that you have to have it all together. So that was a really big challenge. And I think that affected me more growing up like as a high school student. It's very difficult to be a perfect person. So for me, I'm actually one of the first people in my family to go to a four-year university. And with that, the anxiety grew because for many people that I'm friends with, even in my community, many of them don't go to a four-year university. And so I constantly doubted myself. I was hoping that I'd be able to get in and make everyone proud of me.
I'm from a very small town in Central California. I love it. I love my family. I love my friends back home. But growing up, I found myself time and time again that I wasn't being challenged. I was doing a lot of things, but I wasn't growing a ton in one particular thing. I didn't have a mentor in my life. I didn't have someone who was kind of guiding me along. And I was just hungry. I was hungry for a community that would say, Josh, this is where you're at, but this is where you can't be.
Just for most of my life, I've always been kind of a shy person and someone that maybe doesn't have the most confidence, and coming to Point Loma was just a really challenging time in my life. My parents had separated from their marriage of 24 years, and so I was already in this season of change, and then coming to Point Loma, an even bigger change, and so there was just a lot of unknowns and trying to figure out where I fit in here.
So with my dad being a pediatric anesthesiologist and with my mom being a nurse, my experiences before Point Loma were really well shaped by my parents' influence. Growing up with parents who were really well invested in me and into their jobs and into the community of people that they were able to provide hope and healing for. As I grew up, in middle school, my dad actually was diagnosed with kind of a aggressive form of blood cancer and ultimately passed away when I was a sophomore in high school from complications after his treatment. That shaped a huge part of my passion for medicine. And as I learned from his experiences and as I was able to kind of gain meaning and purpose behind his struggles as it affected our family, I began to find my passion for medicine within that, knowing that the same doctors and nurses that were helping to heal my father was something that I was passionate about, and I wanted to be those kind of people. I wanted to be the doctor sitting in front of my parents, providing them with a treatment plan. I wanted to be the medical personnel providing like the absolute best care that I could to him and ultimately to other patients. And so my parents actually graduated from Point Loma as well. And now that I've had 3 years here at the university, I think I've come to better understand in the way that this university has shaped them.
An older friend of mine came to Point Loma. Whenever I would ask her about how school was going, she would always say nothing but great things about how awesome chapels were, or how friendly the people were, or how great it was to have professors that cared about you. I knew that I wanted that same experience that she had.
Point Loma came to mind. I remember my sister when she was looking at schools to transfer to, and so I researched it and I saw that it was a really beautiful school. It was a Christian school, which I was interested in, and I knew that I liked caring for other people, and so I saw that they had a good nursing program.
So as a prospective student, I was looking at schools that I knew could provide me with the education experience, that could provide me with opportunities to continue that education into a graduate program, and I knew Point Loma had a strong pre-med program. It was this, the pre-med program that my dad went through ultimately to become a physician.
I was in a choir at a junior college in the town that I grew up in, and Dr. Jackson from Point Loma was there, and he was working with our choir. I was really intrigued by his teaching style, and I was drawn to Dr. Jackson because of the passion he had for the university and for his work here. He invited me to come audition for a scholarship. I remember the day that I stepped foot on this campus, I was just like, man, this is a beautiful campus. But that's always the first thing people say, but it's not until you immerse yourself in the campus, you start meeting the teachers, you start meeting the people, and that was when I knew. I remember walking into the room and one of the piano professors was playing a piece, waiting till I was gonna walk in the room, and it was just like inspiring. I was like, how can someone be that great? And just to know that these people who have been immersing themselves in learning and growing and excellence, and they're so great already, but they want to learn and grow and get even better. To see on their faces that they were excited of the potential of me coming to their school. And it was the first time that I felt that sense of belonging at Point Loma. It was like, this is gonna be my new family.
An expectation, like for myself in college, was that this was going to be a place of growth, that it was going to be a place of change. I had seen these like characteristics in my parents, like this loving and selfless attitude, this ability for them to really put aside their own interests for the interests of other people. These are attributes that I believe they developed here at Point Loma, and my expectation was that I was going to be able to find those kind of things in myself. The first couple weeks at Point Loma were overwhelming. I found that the academic and the non-academic setting were a huge rush of new friendships, new experiences, learning new things, and I found specifically within my own life that I really didn't know as much as I thought I did. I began to learn a lot about this intersection of science and faith. I didn't have to separate medicine from religion, and that you could find a place to intermix your spiritual life and your professional life.
Going into Point Loma, all I can think about was how many technical things I was going to learn. I didn't realize that I was going to be growing a lot as an individual too.
In the beginning, it wasn't easy, to be honest. Like, I kind of still had that like longing to be home with people that knew me. But coming here was really different from anything I've ever known.
I didn't know that the culture was going to cause me to become a better friend.
I just felt like people really went out of their way to get to know me and to get to know my story.
I didn't realize it was going to cause me to become closer to Jesus.
No one cared about what I looked like or where I came from. We all had this genuine love of Christ, and I think that's what made the playing field equal. Like when we were able to talk about our past and how we've been hurt, but how God changed our lives, or how our faith was tested. I felt like I couldn't share those things with people before.
One of the many things I love about Point Loma is that these professors care about the students.
In my Psych 101 class with Dr. Tim Hall, I found a huge importance in the relationship that I was able to develop with him as a professor. It was a class that taught psychology, and we studied the brain and human interaction, but we also focused so heavily on the introspective. It was the first opportunity that I had to actually share my story. Dr. Tim Hall got to share his story with us, and he encouraged us to do the same. Tim was so genuine and so loving to all of us students. As I saw different perspectives and different experiences, I began to better understand my own perspectives and experiences. And not only in the classroom setting, but outside of the classroom setting, I was able to see the way that this class and a lot of different classes that I had been taking were shaping me. I began to better understand my own passion for medicine and how my experiences growing up had shaped that. I also think my expectations for what it looked like to become a physician drastically changed in that first month of school, knowing that you needed a really complex understanding of life in order to build upon actually taking care of a patient. Without that course, I don't think I'd have a very good understanding for this deeply rooted passion that I have for medicine. And so I'm so thankful for that opportunity to take that course with Tim.
Through professors and RAs, resident directors, Point Loma started to become kind of a sanctuary from home. I just really felt like I was able to kind of step out and get more involved and really make it my home.
I see in movies and shows where universities, there's hundreds of people in a classroom and they get no communication or conversation with their professors. And here at Point Loma, it's quite opposite. You have genuine relationships. I wasn't just a number. I wasn't just a small fish in a big pond. I was a student that they saw a future. They saw progress that could be made, and they pursued me just as I pursued this education.
Being a freshman here on campus, I wanted to try so many different things. A few things that I signed up for were Young Life Capernaum. I signed up for homeless ministries on Wednesday nights before timeout. Because of those ministries I was involved in here at Point Loma, my mindset has been able to open up so much. And my heart has been able to grow for people in so many ways, even stepping out and taking risks in leadership opportunities. And so my sophomore year, I decided to join D groups.
I think it was my sophomore year at Point Loma when I started to get into clinicals and more nursing-specific classes. And that really showed me what life would really be like as a nurse and getting to work with real patients. I think Point Loma's nursing was really unique in that it teaches its students to care for patients beyond just medically and to think of them holistically. And so a great opportunity I had to kind of live this out was when I went on a medical mission trip with LoveWorks to Haiti.
I loved being with George. I interned with him for 3 years. Some of my fondest memories are just sitting in his living room with a cup of coffee and the interns gathered around and just talking about ways that we can sharpen our craft. Over my time leading worship more and more, I realized it's less and less about music and more about communicating. And not only communicating, but an invitation for people to experience Jesus in a fresh way.
Doing D groups was really cool because I didn't just minister to high school students like I used to, but now I got to minister to young girls that were my age or older. It was really shocking to me when one of the girls in my class, who was, I believe, like a junior at the time, she asked me if I had a D group, and I was like, oh, what? Like, you want to come to my D group? But you are someone I look up to, and that just built my confidence up. Like, I could reach people that normally I wouldn't even think I could lead.
During my medical trip, this passion grew inside of me. We had this opportunity to go on a home visit for this woman who had breast cancer. We went to the house daily for the couple weeks that we were there. Honestly, the biggest thing I think we did for her was just talk to her and pray for her and be there with her, because she hadn't had that from anyone else in her life at the time. That was just a really crazy moment for me when I realized the opportunity that I would have as a nurse to care for people.
I remember spending the first couple of years as a worship leader intern just being super discouraged because I could not see myself growing in that area of communicating. I've always found that singing came easy, but all the other components to worship leading, you know. I remember my senior year, and it was about halfway through, and I finally was able to see those years of hard work paying off. I found that preparing for worship sets weren't as hard anymore. I found that I enjoyed looking at scripture in a different light and looking for opportunities to communicate with my peers and to love people. I think it goes back to that place of sometimes learning is hard and sometimes it's uncomfortable, but there is a day where you get to see the benefits and the fruits of the hard work, and couldn't have done it without people pulling me along and picking me up and dusting off my back and saying, that's okay, you're gonna get them next time. It's all right, you're gonna get them next time. You know, seeing the gold in my work even when I didn't see it, because I naturally go to all the negatives. What did I do wrong? But a good teacher, a good mentor, this community, is one who says, this is the gold in you. And they pull the gold out, and then they help polish the things that need to be polished.
During some really difficult academic struggles, I've seen people be physicians to me. I embarked on a pretty rigorous academic journey in the fall semester of my sophomore year. Even those first couple weeks showed me that I was going to need a lot more than just hard work and dedication. Along with what seemed like countless hours of class and lab, I found that the most life-giving experiences for me were found in the people around me. A really profound example of the people that surrounded me was chapel has always been a place for me that has represented peace and rest. It's a space that I can come with my fellow students and my friends to step outside of the classroom setting that kind of starts up a lot of the stress and anxiety in my life. I remember taking a genetics test and I didn't feel that great about it. I kind of felt this like lingering sense of failure. And I walked into that place as we began worship. I was like surrounded by like 4 or 5 of my closest friends. They didn't know I had taken the exam, but they just overwhelmed me with like love and compassion. They just provided this huge sense of peace. That's what I needed that night after feeling these fears and anxieties of failure. Knowing that I really just needed people around me, it made me feel a lot more than just my grades. And I think without those people that continued to walk out life with me, I don't think I would have necessarily even passed those courses, and I think I would have kind of burned out. I don't think I would have had the same passion for science and for medicine that I do today.
I feel like you enter into Point Loma with so many unknowns. You're in a new place. You don't know what it's going to be like. But then I remember the last chapel or graduation, and I look around and I see so many people devastated that it's coming to an end. I feel like that's a good indication that it's a special community. It's a special time in your life. I received teaching and mentorship and just genuine love. I was constantly being put in this position of striving for excellence in everything that I do, and to do it out of a posture of faithfulness. I think it's really neat when you can leave college and be proud of that season, but then also be grateful for what that season set you up for.
I know that I still have a bit more time here at Point Loma, but while I'm here, I'm so excited to just keep pouring into young girls' lives. I want to be able to encourage them to say, yes, go, take that risk and do something that's never been done before.
This university, both in and outside of the classroom, has allowed me to better understand about what it means to be a physician, what it means to be a caregiver. And so I have that opportunity each and every day to serve the people around me. As a current student at Point Loma, I serve as an admissions ambassador to provide information and perspective to prospective students, to provide them with a sense of peace, to provide them with perspective of how this university has shaped me. I found that's a really tangible way for me to impact people's lives and ultimately to live out that calling right now.
Looking back at my time at Point Loma, I see how God really used it as a time for me to heal. Through relationships I had here and just through the different opportunities, He really showed me how to care for people that I encounter in the workplace and wherever I go.
My hope and prayer is that I'm able to do half as good a job as the professors did for me at Point Loma, and just to be able to carry on that legacy of Point Loma, which is investing in upcoming generations and realizing that there is value in being teachable, there is value in sowing into people, and there is value in loving Jesus and making sure that you live a life of integrity and character.